Purdue snatches a defeat from the jaws of victory. I'm Dylan Hildreth. This is the Dylan Hildreth Show. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. So let's get into this game. As I mentioned earlier in one of my later videos, that if Purdue won this game, they had a really good chance of getting at least 10 plus wins. Seeing their inability to run the ball, they are going to have a hell of a time trying to close out games. Now, looking at Purdue rushing, they ran 22 times for 61 yards, 2.8 yards per carry. That is obviously under the threshold you would want of at least 3 yards a carry. Best case. I mean, there's no excuse on why Purdue shouldn't be walking out of this with a victory. The last couple drives there, Purdue didn't even try running the ball. And it was fairly evident that Penn State was at least going to be given one, if not two chances. They got us. Penn State didn't just get a second chance. They got a third chance. And they capitalized. And then on the final drive, I don't know why you don't use that timeout. Give yourself a little bit extra time to get set, have a game plan from a little before midfield. It was about 40-yard line. Get a chance to catch your breath and realize the situation. Instead, they went straight for it and ended up in a 4th and 5 situation with a wasted play. And then you had to just chuck the ball deep, which the Purdue O-line did not give Aiden O'Connell enough time to do that. And Purdue, in the most important game of their history, came up short at home. And they're in trouble right out of the gates. As I said, their rushing was absolutely abysmal. And you need to be able to run the ball, especially in the Big Ten. You can only get by with throwing the ball 59 times, ladies and gentlemen. 59 times Aiden O'Connell threw the football. That's unacceptable. And yes, Aiden O'Connell, he's a great quarterback. But you cannot throw the ball 59 times and expect to win a game, especially against a team as balanced as Penn State, with a quarterback who is as senior as Sean Clifford. And quite frankly, I'll get into that in a minute. When you're getting pretty much outdone and outsmarted by Sean Clifford, there's a problem. I mean, 7.6 yards per attempt, 282, four touchdowns against a slightly better than average quarterback. Unbelievable. And then the horrendous play calling all around. The constant one-on-ones with Charlie Jones and not even putting Joey Porter Jr. on him. I mean, Penn State, they showed a lot of cracks. They showed they are not with Ohio State and Michigan, and maybe not even Michigan State. Now, I think if Penn State is smart, they ride with Drew Aller from here on out. I look when I saw his numbers, well, let me give you the stats that had me drooling before he even played a snap. 6'5", 242 pounds. He passed for over 4,400 yards in his senior year in a football hotbed of Ohio. And you have a quarterback like Sean Clifford, who is slightly better than average, and you're sitting on a gold mine. So I am officially putting Penn State into that barrel of Michigan and Georgia. You are playing the career-long guy, I want to say charity case. He's been here. We're going to roll with him, even though the guy behind him is going to be far better. J.J. McCarthy and Brock Vandergriff, they're going to be far better than whatever Stenson and Cade McNamara will be. That's the reality of it. And now Penn State is in that same category with Sean Clifford and Drew Aller. And the throw that he had in his one drive, it was to the third string tight end. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but perfectly thrown ball, just a flick of the wrist, 25 yards downfield. Would have been caught if, the tight end caught the ball, but he didn't. So Penn State, they can be just as good as Ohio State, as Michigan, as Michigan State. They have a pretty decent cast of characters. They had some receivers drop the ball quite a bit, but their defense is really, really good. I was impressed by the defense. Manny Diaz, the former Miami head coach, he called a pretty good game from the front seven aspect. I would have had a double team on Charlie Jones. You're going to beat us with somebody. It ain't going to be Charlie. And then another stat that was kind of big was Purdue did a lot of gun to foot and pull the trigger. They shot themselves in the foot several times. There was at least 3 times where Penn State was dead to rights on a drive, but was bailed out by a penalty. Whether it was holding, pass interference, the late hit. It was just a lot of lack of discipline. But that Penn State secondary, it was quite impressive. I will say that. And then, but yeah, overall, Sean Clifford, I think he saved his job with that drive, his third game-winning drive of his 27-year-long career at Penn State. And Penn State moves on to fight for a national championship another day. And Purdue is now relegated back to Purdue. So make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on the Dylan Hilder Show.